This is the Listen Up Girl podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman. I bring you LGBTQ plus news several times a week. Today is Friday, August the 22nd. My first story is Democrats finally find their backbone. That's right. For years, Democrats have been treating Donald Trump's actions as though they were just an extreme form of politics as usual. The strategy was to be the grown-ups in the room, while Trump, the self-proclaimed deal-maker, ran over Democrats' norms. But this approach has left many wondering whether Democrats were underestimating the real danger to the country. Now there's a shift. Democrats are beginning to call Trump's actions what they are: unlawful attempts to bullying his opponents into submission. Through intimidation, bogus investigations, and outright abuse of power, Trump has sought to reshape America into a place where only his supporters thrive and only his worldview is tolerated. The recognition has a fire under some Democrats who are finally pushing back, signaling this is not simply politics, it's a fight for democracy itself. And that being said, Governor Gavin Newsom's presidential campaign account took aim at gay conservative influencers, mocking his long hair by comparing him Representative Nancy Mace, the South Carolina Republican, who is their brand on LGBTQ plus rhetoric. The post quickly gained attention, with many laughing along at the jab, but others weren't impressed. Critics accused Newsom of misgendering as a punchline, pointing out the hypocrisy of a Democrat stooping to the same rhetoric that Republicans use to mock the queer people. The backlash comes as a sensitive time for Newsom, who has already been under fire for recently echoing right-wing talking points about transgender people. For a politician trying to get himself as a defender of LGBTQ rights, the moment could complicate his message. However, if you see all the messages that Newsom is putting out, he is now taunting Trump, and he has now gone and said he is going to change the California state map, the same thing that Texas is doing, and he's going to make this in favor of Democrats. So he is fighting back. Next story is a MAGA influencer urges voter shift in Pennsylvania. Right-wing activist Scott Presler, who is openly gay and a staunch Trump supporter, has a new strategy for flipping swing states. In a viral video, Presler urged unaffiliated voters in Pennsylvania to register as Republicans. His reasoning? Pennsylvania's primaries are closed, meaning only registered party members can vote. By switching affiliation, independents would have a voice in selecting Republican candidates, potentially pushing the state further to the right. Presler's influence is significant in conservative circles, where he's known as the grassroots voter drives. His latest campaign is part of a broader Republican effort to lock down battleground states ahead of the 2026 and beyond elections. Next, we have federal workers lose gender-affirming care coverage. A quiet but major policy shift has dealt a devastating blow to federal employees who rely on their insurance for gender-affirming health care. In a letter sent to insurers, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management announced starting in 2026, neither federal employee health benefit programs nor postal health and benefits programs will cover gender transition services. The directive allows insurers to create exceptions for patients already receiving care, but leaves the details vague. Advocacy groups have blasted the move as both cruel and illegal, pointing out that it discriminates against transgender workers by denying them access to medically necessary care that has been widely supported by major medical organizations. For thousands of federal employees, the decision injects fear and uncertainty into their futures. Next, we have Julia Fox comes out as pansexual. Cultural icon Julia Fox, best known for her breakout role in Uncut Gems, and her avant-garde style, and her highly publicized relationship with Ye, has come out as pansexual. The announcement follows her brief but memorable TikTok moment last year when she appeared to come out as a lesbian. Fox's sexuality has long been the subject of speculation, not least because she's open about her struggles with men and her choice to swear them off while raising her young son. By naming herself as pansexual, Fox aligned with a growing number of celebrities who embraced love beyond gender and boundaries, a move celebrated by many in the LGBTQ community. Next, we have one of my favorite representatives, Jasmine Crockett, who fires back at the big bad butch body Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is no stranger to bad comments, and this week she targeted Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas. In an interview with Megyn Kelly, Greene dismissed Crockett's identity as a Black woman, arguing that she didn't truly know the struggle because she attended private schools and law school. Crockett wasn't having it. She shot back that Greene's remarks were nothing but an attempt to erase the experience of Black Americans who faced discrimination, regardless of their education or economic background. The exchange highlights not just Greene's ongoing use of racic rhetoric, but also the ways Black women in politics are frequently forced to defend their very identities in the face of hostile attacks. Marjorie Taylor Greene hopefully would just go away one day. Hopefully they will vote her out of office and we never have to hear from her again. Because she is just a miserable person. And she's quite ugly, if I have to say so myself. Elise Stefanik booed off stage. So Republican House Chair Elise Stefanik faced a hostile reception at a memorial event in upstate New York. Invited to speak at a ceremony honoring longtime Clinton County Clerk John Zerlo, Stefanik lasted less than a minute at the podium before the crowd booed her off stage. The reflected ongoing growing tension between Stefanik and her constituents. Though the event was meant to be nonpartisan, many attendees saw Stefanik's presence as a political stunt. Her rapid departure underscored the deep polarization that has even reached the local community memorials. A few months ago, I talked about the drag ban that was happening at Texas A&M. So the court rules drag ban unconstitutional at Texas A&M. At a federal appeal court has struck down a drag ban imposed by West A&M University, ruling it violated its First Amendment protections. The case began in 2023 when the university canceled a drag show fundraiser planned by the LGBTQ+ student group Spectrum WT. University President Walter Windler defended the ban by labeling drag demoralizing and linking it to blackface. Students sued, and after years of litigation, the appeals court sided with them, affirming that drag is a form of protected artistic expression. The ruling is a major win for free speech and LGBTQ+ visibility in a conservative stronghold state. Nancy Mace targets LGBTQ+ education policies. So South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace made LGBTQ issues the centerpiece of her recent speech on education. She threatened to strip federal funding from schools that think men can get pregnant, despite the fact that transgender men and non-binary people can. She also called for a ban on pronouns in classrooms and repeated false claims that LGBTQ inclusive books in school libraries amount to child porn. Though widely debunked, this rhetoric continues to fuel conservative attacks on queer students and educators, giving political cover to policies that marginalize LGBTQ youth. People like Nancy Mace are just unbelievable. She thinks that LGBTQ inclusive books are the same as child porn. She is an idiot. How does she get elected to be anything representing this country? Next, we go to rainbow crosswalks at risk nationwide. I have to almost laugh before starting this story. because it is so ridiculous. The days of rainbow-painted crosswalks may be numbered. Both Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida and the Trump administration have announced new measures to erase what they call asphalt art from American streets. They argue non-standard crosswalks are unsafe for drivers and could confuse autonomous vehicles. However, research suggests otherwise. A Bloomberg philanthropic study found that intersections with painted crosswalks saw over 50% fewer crashes. Despite the data, officials insist they pull funding from cities that don't comply. For many, this is about politics, not safety, an attempt to literally erase visible signs of LGBTQ pride from public life. All the shit that's happening bad in this world, they are worried about a rainbow crosswalk? Seriously? What is wrong with people? Next, Christian Waggoner, the Christian rights legal powerhouse, has become one of the most influential conservative attorneys in America. As CEO of Alliance Defending Freedom, she's the architect behind countless attacks on reproductive rights and LGBTQ protections. Waggoner's most famous victory was Dobbs versus Jackson, the Supreme Court case that overturned Roe versus Wade and erased constitutional right to abortion. She has also been at the forefront of anti-LGBTQ legal battles, arguing and winning cases that chipped away at protections for queer Americans. Waggoner's influence shows no sign of waning, making her one of the most consequential and dangerous figures in America's legal landscape. Another person that is doing nothing good for society. In a stark warning, Hillary Clinton predicted that the Supreme Court will overturn Obergefell versus Hodges, the landmark 2015 ruling that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. Speaking on Raging Moderates podcast, Clinton noted how Republicans spent decades laying the groundwork to overturn Roe versus Wade and could do the same to the LGBTQ marriage rights. She urged queer couples to get married now, warning that while existing queer marriages might be upheld, future marriages could be outlawed in more than half the states. Clinton's words are a chilling reminder of how fragile LGBTQ rights remain. Next story is study finds 1% of U.S. identifies as trans. The UCLA Williams Institute has released groundbreaking research showing that 1% of the U.S. population identifies as transgender, over 2.8 million people. The study found trans youth make up a significant portion, with 3.3% of teens identifying as trans, compared to less than 0.5% of older adults. The data reveal how much more likely younger generations are openly to identify as trans, reflecting both growing acceptance and growing political backlash. The study has highlighted radical differences, showing Latinx, Native Americans, and multiracial were more likely to identify as trans than a white person. I think this is such a amazing story because there is so much thought and so much time that is being wasted into trying to take away trans rights in this country, and it's only 1% of the population. They're focusing on all that when they should be focusing on the Epstein files and pedophiles and all this other shit that's happening. But no, they want to focus on 1% of the population that does nothing to anyone to hurt anyone. It's just really, really just ridiculous. And my final story is trans park ranger fired for flag on El Capitan. A Yosemite National Ranger says they were fired after flying a trans flag on El Capitan. Shannon Jocelyn, a scientist and permanent ranger, explained that the flag was hung off-duty as a private citizen and for only 2 hours before taking it down. Jocelyn says other flags have been flown on El Capitan without issue, making this punishment discriminatory. The firing was unilateral decision of a temporary supervisor who may not remain at Yosemite. The decision upended Jocelyn's career and sparked outrage from the LGBTQ plus community, who sees it yet as another example of retaliation against queer visibility. Those are my news stories for Friday, August 22nd. Please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Please leave a comment. I would love to hear what you think about these stories. And also be sure to listen to my other podcast. It's called Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay, and it is on all of your favorite podcast platforms, plus YouTube. Thanks for listening, and talk to you on Sunday with more LGBTQ plus news.